Hello, everyone, and welcome to quite a surprisingly late edition of the Warchief Radio Podcast for me, but I had to do it. It's our second episode of Chapter 2, and it's with the phenomenal Matsuda Tanaka. I just had to do it. Hello, Tanaka. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Well, I'm ecstatic that you've messaged me to come on to the show. I'm above the moon, so we got to talk about it.
Sorry, I almost cut you off there.
Oh, don't worry about cutting me off. I'm assure you over this next hour or so, we'll be doing a lot of that. But when it comes to it now, we got to talk to you. You are like the man. This is your season. It's been your season since last year as well. It's just been all you and EFED. It's been all you when it comes down to it. Let's talk about it. Well, firstly, all core team said that you were going to be the top core prediction in terms of the rise. How do you feel about
that? I appreciate the compliment. It's how you say it. I don't really do this to be at the top of anything. I just do this shit for fun. But it's flattering that people view me at that light. So yeah, it's cool. I put it in that way.
Well, everyone knows your name. You've got a lot of attention from a lot of people, so let's talk about where it all began. Where did Matsuda Tanaka come from?
Well, first and foremost, Matsuda Tanaka was never supposed to be like my main call, as people say. But before I get to that, the way how I started in call, I've been playing W games since God knows when. I'm pretty sure you could relate. So like I've always been like messing around with Create a Superstar, stuff like that. I've always had fun doing that sort of stuff. Doing Paint Tool back, SVR days, WWE 13, whatnot. When I got my first glimpse of call, this was like back in, I want to say WWE 13. I forgot what the Fed was, like the name of it, but it was a comp league. It was a competitive league, competitive Fed, and if I'm not mistaken, I could be. I don't know. It was a while ago. I'm pretty sure if he wasn't the owner, he was one of the guys who helped out. But Dashing over at CMV, he was a part of this Fed. I know for a fact he was a part, and there was a couple other people there. But we had to be. We weren't calls. We were actual wrestlers, so we had to role play as different wrestlers on the roster. So I did a little bit of that for a few months. I was I was a teenager. Either that, I was like 13, 12 years old around there when I was doing that. And it was back when they were doing forums on a website. So this was not Twitter or Facebook, whatever. So yeah, that's how I kind of like got my start. Did that for a couple months with a couple friends of mine. We played like WWE games all the time. It was like, let's join a Fed or something. We we fight each other all the time. Why not fight other people? But after a while, kind of got fell out the loop and completely forgot about it. And then years later, still playing WWE games. I want to say 2K18. I was discovered on Community Creations. I had made Matsuda Tanaka because I ran a universe mode for obviously for myself. So I had create like a bunch of original calls for this universe mode, and sometimes I will upload them. And they found me on Community Creations, like, hey, would you want to join my Fed? And I was like, sure. I haven't done joined a Fed in years, and why not do something interesting and different? So I joined a Fed. I won't name drop them because they're They're no longer around, but for reasons that, how do you say,
nefarious reasons,
redacted
reasons.
Let's just say redacted. But I just want to at least give people some kind of background where I came from. But yeah, the owner upset a couple people, and then that went to shit. But anyways, yeah. So like, I got discovered on CC, and then they were like, "Hey, you got to make a Twitter." I was like, "Okay." This was like 2017. So I made a Twitter, and Dashing, going back to CMV, the owner of CMV, he found me on Twitter. He's like, "Hey, you want to join CMV?" I was like, "Oh, sure." I think I asked him, or he asked me. It's been a while, but it might have been, who knows? But it's a while ago. So I joined CMV, which is still going on to this day. And I was as Matsuda Tanaka. It was eFed. Did a couple stories. They're kind of running their stuff still on a website, on a forum. So it wasn't really. Some people did Twitter promos, and some people just did promos on forum. I was one of those guys who did. I stuck to the forum strategy. I just felt like I was able to tell better stories through that, because you're obviously limited on how many characters you could input on Twitter. And I wasn't really doing sim at the time, so I wasn't recording shit. I was just a straight eFed guy. So I did that for a couple months, and then I kind of like fell off the earth. It's not that, because I hear some people say, "Oh, they grow up or whatever." Because when I was in this, I was in college and I was working. I just like kind of lost interest for the simple fact that
you lose interest.
I feel like to have fun in call, you gotta have some kind of friendship with people. Like, you gotta have some kind of circle. That's just how it is. I don't care what anybody tells me. People, if you know people and you're cool with people and you have like your circle of friends, as you know, you're gonna enjoy it at a certain level.
You're gonna enjoy it a lot more.
I feel like my first time, I didn't really enjoy it because I didn't really know people. I was new. But like people were like, I grabbed certain people's attention, but like I didn't really like. It wasn't really like much to me, because like at the time I was like, "Oh, cool, you like my stuff," and I just went about my day. But I never really like communicated with people. I know before I left, I was supposed to join NGCW, I think, and I think that defunct. Dalton Crooks, who you guys know as Chris Aaron, shout out Chris Aaron, that's the homie. He had reached out to me, wanted me to join, and I was supposed to be in the Rumble. I think I was supposed to win it. That's like a shocking thing. I think I was supposed to win the Rumble. I might be wrong, but Chris Aaron knows better. But I know he was like, "I want you here, want you in the Rumble," but it never happened, and like NGCW just stopped.
Speaking about Chris Aaron, he's very high on you, and
he is.
I didn't know you when you debuted in COH, because I'm quite one-minded when I come to the Fed, because I don't know what everyone else is doing. I normally just stay to what one company and what I'm doing. So I didn't know who you were until you jumped the rail for Jeremy Barmore. I had heard things, but like I didn't know. It wasn't in my circle. It wasn't within what I was knowing. And it was Chris Aaron who was telling me, like he was in the party marking out, and he was like, "This guy's so fucking good," and all this and that. And like, he's what he's been like one of your biggest supporters and everything in terms of like helping me get an understanding of your character. He's definitely taught to me for like at least hours about yourself and your work to get me more familiarized. But this was before I joined Relentless Pro, and this is before anything else. But that's how I started to know you, and that was from Chris Aaron. And so I can see why, because I know as soon as you came into on Abound at the time. I believe it was on Abound. I know that Chris Ann was ecstatic to see you come there, but yeah, continue.
Yeah, when we get to that point, I'll elaborate on that debut. But yeah, where exactly was that? We were talking about Chris Aaron. But yeah, so yeah, like I said, he was trying to recruit me in GCW, but that didn't go anywhere because the Fed just stopped. I don't know why. I know there was no kind of malice going on. I just think the owner, their life shit probably got in the way. They were supposed to start back up. I don't know what happened with that. But anyways, so yeah, I was in some feds here and there, but I wasn't really active. Like I said, I was losing interest. I was in one redacted fed that a lot of people were a part of. I was there for like a little stint. Wasn't really active.
Is that the one that begins with a H or the one that begins? No, it must be the one that begins with a H, right?
It begins with a C.
And then is it the one that was run by the squeaky British dude or a different guy?
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I was in that they recruited me, and I remember watching their stream. Oh, this is pretty cool, but like I said, I didn't really have friends in call, so like it didn't really pique my interest too much, and my interest like drizzled out. And then I just went back to my regular scheduled program of life. And then I kind of just like faded away slowly. I'll like post stuff here and there, like just random attire posts, but I just wasn't in any feds, I guess you could say. I just fell off the map. I didn't tell anybody that I was going. I just like left. And I had a little following. It was only like 100-something followers at the time. And between that time period where I was gone, it was about like, I want to say 1.5 2 years. I was still playing, WWE 2K18, 19, whatever game was out at the time. Because I always enjoyed playing it, and I was still creating shit. That's like literally what I always do when I'm on the game, just create shit, or just be on Photoshop and shit like that. What brought me back? So between that time, I was working, stuff like that. Had a really good job. Unfortunately, did not even like get to enjoy it because the pandemic hit. So I got fired. I was working as a account manager for healthcare. Really good paying job. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I was only there for like 2 months. Pandemic hit and lost my job. So there was like a moment between March and August. I'm just stuck at home playing fucking Warzone all day with my friends. And for whatever reason, I was like, hey, let me just hop on Twitter and get back on my Matsuda Tanaka account and see what's going on there. And I was fucking bored. And I see CMV was still up and running. I was like, let's do CMV. Come back out of nowhere. Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm still alive, guys. So I was in CMV. I want to say probably like early July. And then a certain call. Well, he's not here anymore. But he had asked me to join RPro because he wanted to pick up a feud that we had in CMV. So I DM'd our pro and they weren't going to sign me. Believe it or not, our pro was not going to sign me. And I don't blame them, but considering that they didn't have that many people, it's kind of like,
yeah, you
kind of have to sign me. But from my understanding, they saw my call account. I was like, this has got to be somebody's side call. Because like my tweets are very sporadic. Since I wasn't really around, it'll be like one tweet in January, and then an entire post 9 months later. It was shit like that. So I can understand why they'll probably think it's a side call account. And plus, I only had like very few followers at the time. But they signed me, whatever, and I joined. So I joined to feud with somebody. That was my reason to join R Pro. I didn't know if I was going to stick around or not. And I seen the owner at the time. He had put out a tweet and then forwarded to the locker room chat. And they were looking for somebody to help with their graphics and make championships and stuff like that, because the person that was working on this stuff had other projects to do. So I was like, hey, why not? I'll do it. I've always wanted to work on something like that. So like the Fed that I started with, the one that discovered me on CC, I wanted to help him with his graphics and stuff like that. He just never took my help. So I've always wanted to do like graphics and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, this is my calling right here. Like I'll do this.
And they are some mighty fine fucking graphics, let me tell you. Like,
and I made some championships, and they were like, can you do match cards? I was like, I've never done match cards in my life, but sure, why not? And they're pretty decent.
Yeah,
they're all right.
Yeah, 100%.
They're all right.
Because I remember this, because when Relentless Pro at the time, I knew they changed the name. I wasn't on good terms with said owner at the time, i.e. like we had an argument years back and then never got resolved, and I didn't like him, he didn't like me, sort of thing. But I don't know, it kind of died. I don't think I don't hate him now, you know what I mean? But it's like, you know, it was one of them like awkward things where you don't want to like bring it back and be like, well, let's talk about it, let's get over it and be friendly and whatnot. It was never on the to-do list. But I remember when it was happening and like the logos and the graphics just took a whole step up, and it was like, okay, now these guys are getting like serious, sort of thing. Because I remember the feeling at the time, or at least from my end, it was like, because I always look at the pecking order of feds, in my opinion, and it's like, you know, it's just who I don't know why I do it. I don't want to put anyone down by saying stuff like, oh, this guy's top dog, or this fed's the top. I don't mean anything like that, but like it's just a general like what's big, what's looking good at the moment, sort of thing. And I remember seeing those graphics and thinking, okay, this is going to be big next. You know, like this is going to go really well. If they look good like this, they're going to continue doing really well. And lo and behold, here we are. But no, to continue. So you did the graphics, you did match cards.
Yeah. So what's funny about that? So I remember the first creative meeting that I was in. I remember the owner at the time, he was like, guys, you know, I don't think I can keep on doing R Pro. Probably gonna shut it down by December. And this is like, I want to say October. I had joined R Pro officially in September. So I did a few weeks as just, you know, casual roster member. Then I jumped into creative, and he was like, I don't know if I can continue doing this. And what's funny is like his reasoning is because, you know, the viewership wasn't good. He was only doing like, when I first joined, he was only doing like 6 viewers at the time a week whenever he would stream. And once I started doing the graphics, it was like steadily increasing. Like it would go to 10, then like stay around 13. I told him, I was like, you know, just give it time. It's increasing. He was like, I'll see by December how it is. It didn't even take till December. Like a couple weeks in, I want to say like same month, October, when we started working on our we did this. So the first official event I worked on was called Champions Path. It was like a super show. It was like our pro's version of Clash of Champions. That's kind of where like everyone was like, oh, what the hell is this? R Pro. And then people were tuning in and seeing how the ring looks and stuff like that. I was, oh, this looks pretty cool. And then we started working on our Halloween show. And then Battle Battle of the Relentless, which took place like around November, like November-ish 2020. That's where like we started hitting like 20s, maybe like early 30s for like the pay-per-view. And then we were having people like Ryan Romero, who are on the guest side of the tournament. Battle Relentless, for those who don't know what Battle Relentless is, it's our pro's big yearly tournament where we have 8 our pro roster members, and then 8 guests who are not a part of our pro. So a 16 men, 16 women tournament. They compete for a number 1 contendership for either the R Pro World Championship and now the Universal Championship, or the R Pro Rubies and Starlight Championship. So I competed in that, and we had guys like Ryan Romero, BT, Bobby Man. There's a couple of other names that were in there. I believe Jay Knight was in there, the first one. Shout out Jay Knight. I forget who else was on the guest side of things, but we had a nice little set of names there.
Yeah.
But like going back to the graphics, that's what was kind of like catching people's eyes. And then I recreated the arena for the weekly shows, and then recreated when we posted the belts. The belts got like 40 likes. That was the most likes our pro's ever gotten. So like we were like, oh, like, all right, maybe this is not going to close down by December. So kind of started being more consistent in viewership. So our viewers was like staying consistently in the 20s for our weekly shows, and slowly climbing for like pay-per-view events to like 30s, 40s, 50s. Yeah. And it was up from there. So it's kind of crazy because I didn't expect to stay around. Like I thought coming back to call, I was probably gonna be here for a few months and then dip again.
Yeah.
But I started having fun because going back to what I was saying, if you have a circle of friends that are doing this,
it makes a whole lot
more than likely gonna have fun doing it.
Yeah, it makes
you can say
ball game.
You don't enjoy it, whatever. If people say they don't enjoy it, they're still here. Why? Because they have friends here, and they enjoy doing it, whether they like to admit it or not.
It's a different story. It's a different story.
That's a funny thing. Like some people say, like, "Oh, I don't want to be here." Hey, it's like for me, example, I don't say that because I do want to be here. I enjoy doing it. It's a hobby. Some people, like I was hearing the one with Bowen's when he talked about his hiatus and how he feels like he's growing up, and maybe that's why he's not really enjoying it. That could be a factor, but I don't really see it that way. It's like I don't think it's a growing up thing. I think it's more as like you're just losing interest in something.
Yeah,
it's like with everything. Like I was going to college and working when I first started call. I lost interest not because I was growing up or having life shit. I just lost interest in it. I'm working 9 to 5 every day. Well, not every day, Monday through Fridays. 9 to 5, and I'm still doing this because I find it fun. It's a hobby of mine.
Yeah,
I enjoy streaming. I enjoy being creative and messing around with Photoshop, doing graphics and all that. It's something I enjoy doing. If I ever lose interest in it, it's not because I'm growing up. It's just because I just don't find interest in the hobby anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my opinion on that. But back to what we're talking about, our pro. But yeah, definitely want to say Battle Relentless is where we kind of really started getting our name up there. WrestleFest 1, I want to say, is where it was like, okay, people are like, I want to join. I want to join an art pro.
Hmm.
It seems cool. I think that was like the moment where people was like, well, maybe this is the next, not to blow smoke, but you know what I'm saying.
Next big thing.
And it's crazy because I remember that WrestleFest, I got like 60, 70 followers that night. I was like, what the fuck? Why there's so many people following me right now? I mean, I faced Brett Curtis in the main event for the Art Pro World Championship. It was like EFED / Sim. It was obviously a Sim finish. There was some Sim spots in there. That's when I kind of like started dabbling into Sim. I wanted to give it a try, but most of the match was EFED. But a lot of people liked the match. Now looking back on it, me being ignorant, I don't want to say the match sucked, but like it's the simmer in me where it's like I could have done a lot better. But at the time, I didn't really know how to sim like that. I only knew how to do little things. So for what it was good. From an EFED standpoint, it was good.
Well, for your first time, you know one's going to be amazing. I mean, Bowen said like when he first did it, people didn't really give him criticism, but like I again, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he said he didn't think his best work was the first one. He said it was with you. So like it's one of those things you're going to get better at, and you have got extremely great at the whole sim gig. Like you're renowned for it at the moment. Like everyone looks forward to any Tanaka match on a big show because usually they're simmed, and it means that it's going to be good and quality. I know that's definitely probably helped Relentless Pro in terms of like their expansion and like their growth, having these sim matches, because I think you have been able to do something which has been not talked about, not been able to be achieved for a very long time, and that is bridge the gap between sim and EFED very well. So like have those on the shows, because there used to be this whole big fucking rivalry between sim and EFED, right? I don't know if there still is. I don't see any of it anymore. But there used to be this whole rivalry, and the sim guys were all elitist, and the EFED guys were all they'd all complain. But like it seems that is no longer a thing anymore. Like I know Ryan Swift had to sort of deal with it, like it's somewhat in terms of like because he was doing both at the same time. So but a lot of people used to do EFED and then branch off to sim because sim was deemed better. But like I've not seen any more of that type of stuff. That's like certainly died down since you at least have jumped in and kind of pioneered the mix between EFED and sim. When I say like pioneered, like you've made it so sim elements on a show works, and it works very well, because sometimes you want to shove a sim match on an EFED card and it doesn't really fit well. I mean, it doesn't really, it's not how it should be. But like, no, I think you've done very well in sorting this, like, because everyone looks forward to it. Talking about your sim matches, and this was an interesting point Bowen's brought up. You're renowned for these deathmatch style sim matches. Do you see yourself as a deathmatch wrestler, or do you think it's just been a case of you did one, it worked out really well, and then it's being a case of like it's not sort of forced upon you, but it's more expected now?
I'm gonna answer that question. I also want to touch on what you said previously, but yeah. So here's the thing. Do I enjoy working on death matches? Yes, they're fun. Is Tanaka a death match wrestler? No. But so here's the thing, like a lot of people, I think where I really got my foot in sim is because of the death matches. Like I was doing sim matches before that, of course. But I want to say like my match with Kazoshi Marufuji, which is Taj Naji, now known as the Big Homie Taj. That's his side cause, deathmatch wrestler. That match is where that's the first match I like script. Like I sat on my laptop and I was like, you know what? This is my first death match I'm gonna be working on. I've been in death matches before, but I've never made it myself. So this was Legends of the Honor Temple. I forgot what month was it, but this was for COH.
This was
January
or February. January or beginning.
I believe February.
Yeah, early February, I think, wasn't it?
I was doing this story with Kazoshi in Code of Honor. And I had to make a death match. And I didn't want, since this is going to be my first death match that I'm making, I didn't want it to be shit. So I sat down on my laptop and you know what? I'm going to script every single minute of this match. Make sure that I have a proper, a structured match and going into the death match. So I want to say that match is what really kind of piqued people's interest in me as a simmer, because they seen the kind of things. And if you see on my profile, my Twitter profile, the first thing you see is the coast to coast light tube spot. I didn't think I could have pulled that off, but when I'm determined to do something, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out and make it work. And a lot of people saw that spot and they're like, yo, holy shit, what the fuck is this? In a good way. But because of that, a lot of people saw me as, Matsuda Tanaka's deathmatch wrestler. No, he's not a deathmatch wrestler. He has competed in death matches and he's willing to compete in death matches. If those, obviously people in our pro know who Matsuda is. They know his character, at least should know, have some kind of understanding of who he is and what he is, and how he conducts himself. He's the type of person that will do things, and now he is. He's a heel now. So he's the type of person that would do things by any means necessary. So, and he's a very prideful competitor. So if you're gonna challenge him to a death match, he's gonna do it. If you're gonna challenge him to any kind of match, he's gonna do it. But he's more of Japanese strong style technician. That pure wrestling. That's Matsuda. But when it comes to death matches, he can do that too. And he's in Madness. I'll be working on another death match soon for Madness. Shout out Madness. Shout out Matt Short. Incredible guy, by the way. Yeah, I feel like he doesn't get enough credit, but that's another conversation. But going back to the deathmatch question, I don't see him as a deathmatch wrestler. And I think some people can agree with that who know Matsuda. He's not necessarily a deathmatch wrestler. He's more than that. I'm not saying deathmatch wrestling is, below him. No. That's not what I'm saying. But if he has to take it there, he can take it there. As you can see against guys like Jake Carter, Bear Claw, who that was a match that I love Aaron Waite's shit. Aaron Waite is incredible. His graphics, his matches is fucking phenomenal. The shit he does, it's like holy shit.
Yeah, it's another.
So level. If I'm gonna be doing a match against Aaron Waite, well, Bear Claw, but that's his call. I want to, I don't want to half-ass the match for WrestleCade, especially for WrestleCade. So that match against Bear Claw, I literally told myself, I'm gonna learn motion tracking. I'm gonna learn certain shit to up my skill set with editing and simming. So I learned motion tracking for that match. Learning if you go back to the match, the light tube spots where he's Bear Claw's legit swinging light tubes. I taught myself that overnight. For that match. So I have fun making these death matches. They're fun. They're fun to me. But Matsuda is not primarily a deathmatch wrestler. And people who are new to Matsuda Tanaka, they'll see that he's more than that.
Yeah.
I have a huge match coming up for Matsuda. He's gonna face his own father.
Yeah, that's
that match. You're gonna really see, like, all right, he's not just a deathmatch wrestler. He's a wrestler.
Yeah,
he's a wrestler.
I'm really excited for that match. I didn't when of course the episode happened, and I kind of knew there was something big cooking for Live in the East. Because I don't know who told me. Someone told me something along the lines of something big was happening. But when I saw like it was a Tanaka versus Tanaka match, I was like, oh god, this is gonna be brilliant. Like I was the storytelling that you'll be able to achieve is unreal. Like
I want to give credit. Sorry to cut you off, but I want to give credit to Bowen. This is actually Bowen's idea. The Tanaka versus Tanaka. This was Bowen's plan from when we first started feuding. Because we like you said on your podcast, like we created a game plan for our feud.
Yeah.
And originally it was supposed to span across like 5 matches. And I was supposed to lose all these matches until that one match at WrestleFest where Matsuda just snaps on him. But unfortunately it has to be cut down to only like 2 matches between me and him. It happens.
Yeah.
We just, work around it.
Oh, exactly.
But yeah, like this was his plans. Like when I beat Bowen, eventually he's gonna build up to, I turn on my own dad as well. It's gonna build up to me versus my father, Matsuda's father. So yeah, I give credit to Bowen for that.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, the story that you'll be able to achieve from this style of match, because it's family, like it's not been done before, at least it probably might have been done, but I don't know, not as to the degree that you'll be able to achieve it with the amount of eyes on it.
Swift has done like stuff like that.
I believe it was.
I don't know if it was like son versus father. I know he's done stuff.
I'm aware he got his father, and then he did like a storyline where he was like half brothers with Lions, and then Lions attacked. I can't for the life of me remember his name. I want to say Jerry, but it probably isn't Jerry. It begins with a B. I don't know. And they had their sim match at last year's WrestleCade, I'm pretty sure, and it was that was the style. But when I saw Hinoti and Tanaka go at it, I was just thinking, I can imagine like the Oni Lorcan shore grab chops going on, and the story that you're going to be able to tell, and like the viciousness of it.
This is probably right next to me versus Bowen at WrestleFest. This is probably the most excited I've ever been for a call match, because not only like am I doing like a father and son thing, this is like I'm working by myself, so like I don't have to worry about making trying to make somebody look better or whatnot, stuff like that. I know what I'm gonna be doing heading into that match, so that's the cool thing about it.
Which is something I wanted to bring up with you is the with doing sim. I know that there's like a long list of people that want to fight you and do sim matches with you. How is like dealing with that list with you? Like, is it a case that you're excited to work with some of these people, but is it a case at the same time, like, because Bowen was saying that a lot of people wanted to work with him, and it kind of got overbearing. Do you feel that at all with the amount of people wanting to do stuff with you, or is it just welcomed?
I wouldn't say it. I don't want to say it's overbearing, but I think it's cool that a lot of people that they want to work with me. There's a lot of people I want to work with, especially like on the PlayStation side of things, which is going back to what you mentioned earlier about bridging that gap between eFed and Sim. The soap, like ever since I took ownership, not even ever since, but like even like a little before I kind of like took ownership of R Pro. I was pushing for that like more story driven show. Like I was telling the owner, like we should, do more story driven stuff. I'll help some guys out with sim matches and whatnot. Because I wanted to bridge that gap. I wanted to bring the attention from the simmers, and it's working. There's simmers that are in R Pro that primarily were just simmers. You got guys like DH Young, who were in R Pro, Everett Costanelli, who's in R Pro. Cedric Young, he's borderline EFED and sim. I'll consider him more of a simmer nowadays. But you have guys who are willing to do EFED, and before they were just primarily simmers. And a big part of that is with the partnership with Pro Wrestling Syndicate as well, which is primarily a sim network. Like all their shows are sim shows. But now, obviously, with the 4 count and stuff like that, there's EFED now. But I wanted to bridge that gap between EFED and sim because I was just tired of the whole like, oh, you do EFED, so like it's frowned upon. You're simmers, so you're a piece of shit. Like there was a lot of people who viewed simmers as assholes because the way how they viewed EFEDers, and vice versa.
It was a whole mess,
and you don't really see that as much anymore. It's still kind of there, but I want to give credit to the whole community creations being cross-gen as well. I mean, cross-gen and cross-platform, because you also don't have that PlayStation versus Xbox kind of thing anymore. So that also is a factor, but R Pro plays a role in that, where like there's simmers, who kind of respect EFEDers now, because there's EFEDers that are going into sim and they're pretty good at it too. I would like to say I'm pretty good at it. I'll big myself up for once in a while.
I'll big yourself up. Wait, that sounds wrong.
Before I would say I was pretty shit when it comes to like my camera angles and spots and whatnot, but now that I actually script my matches, I feel more comfortable with my sim matches.
On that subject, is there any tips you want to like anything that you've learned doing sim that you want to pass on to like the next generation of people who are going to be doing these new sim style matches? Anything like you'd have want to heard when you were beginning?
Before I get to that, I want to continue talking about
the
gap between EFED and sim. Yeah, so I want to mention this one thing, and I guess this is more towards the R Pro roster, just in case they feel a certain way. I don't know if they do. This is just I mentioned this to a couple people because I don't want them thinking certain things. So like R Pro bringing in simmers. Number one reason, obviously, is to bridge the gap, but also is to elevate the show. It's like, because if you bring simmers, some people probably feel like, oh, they're automatically gonna get a world championship or something like that because they know how to sim. That's not the way how I look at it. A lot of reasons why simmers aren't R pros because they see what we're doing and they enjoy it and they want to be a part of it and create more stories with their character as well. That's why you have guys like DH Young who wanted to join R Pro because he enjoys it and wants to create more shit for his character and do matches with people he find interesting as well. There's a lot of EFEDers out there who are really creative. Just because they don't know how to sim doesn't mean they can't bring a good story to the table. I think that's a misconception between EFEDers and simmers. A lot of simmers frown upon EFEDers because they feel like because they can't construct a match, edit a match, that they probably can't do shit pretty much. But there's a lot of E-Fetters who know their shit and can help to some capacity of how to construct a match or like certain spots or even just like creating calls. There's a lot of amazing calls on the E-Fed side.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of creative E-Fetters is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's something that's overlooked by simmers when they look into E-Fed. They look at E-Fed sometimes and be like, oh, there's a bunch of weirdos over there. There've been some cases, but that's on both sides of the on the book. It happens everywhere.
I think I've I think I've discussed it before with people about how I see the sim versus E-Fed thing. I feel there's E-Fed people look at simmers as they're elitist, and sim people look at E-Fedders as if they're lazy, sort of thing. And not everyone, and of course, it's just in certain cases. I have argued in the past that I feel E-Fed's good for people like me who like keeping up with stuff, whereas sim shows, they can only get really made once or twice every 4 months, every 4 months maybe.
Yeah,
it takes a lot to put into it. So having that balance of having a weekly show and it's why I was bringing up Harper, having that weekly show that people can sink their teeth into. There's a storylines that it's constantly there. They can promo on Twitter. They can in Harper's case they can make promo segments. They can talk, and they got story to talk on to. Not all the time does the E-Fed carry the story. Certain people want to be on the top and winning, but then okay, your core lost because it's E-Fed. But then it gives you chances to adapt to it. Whereas sim, I think you're going to get better stories because you can control every aspect of it. It just takes much longer to make it.
That's a good point. Where I feel like another reason why some simmers have joined RPro, because you'd probably get bored. Working on a show for so long, you want to at least be active or have some kind of motivation. If you prolonging a show for so long, you might lose motivation within those couple months. So you want to keep yourself in the loop in the community, or be all part of a show that's weekly to keep you, in that loop. You don't lose motivation of working on something because you're still, working on something, like being on a weekly show and stuff like that. And to what you were saying about the sim aspect, that's another thing. Like having simmers on an E-Fed show, I feel it elevates the E-Fetters. Like I was talking to Adam Richards one day, and I told him, I was like, he was coming to me because he feels like, because he can't sim, I'm pretty sure he's fine with me saying this, it's not nothing crazy. He told me, like, because he can't sim, he feels like he's not gonna really be looked at. Like, oh, he felt like he's just another E-Fetter. I was like, bro, it's like, no. That if you can't sim, that's okay. Like, this is our pro. We're hybrid. I like to call it hybrid. We do E-Fed and sim. Sim is just the icing on the cake for our pro. That's the way I look at it. And I told him, I was like, just because you can't sim doesn't mean people are gonna overlook you. Adam Richards could cut a goddamn promo.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
He's good at that, and he knows how to drive a story. And if you pair him with a simmer, like for example, you pair him with someone like DH Young who knows how to construct matches, they're gonna do magic. You have Adam who could drive a story, cut promos. You have DH Young who could do matches. So you get what I'm saying here. It elevates the story as a whole. It elevates him. It elevates DH Young. And that's a part of the reason why I feel like E-Fetters and simmers could come together, because there's positives on both sides of of the stick. So yeah, that's my take on bridging the gap of sim and EFED. The other question you brought up. Can you repeat yourself again?
If you were someone who's just getting to sim now, what tips would you give yourself to help you like instantly get to where you are now, or things that you wanted to know when you first started?
Well, things I wish I knew when I first started was camera angles. Some people don't care about them. Me personally, at first I didn't really care about them, but now like looking back and like watching multiple sim matches, I kind of do appreciate a couple simmers that do try to mimic what they see on TV, because I guess it's more easy on the eyes, in my opinion. So try to like mimic what you see on TV, like using the hard cam and things like that. Camera angle like a little below the rope, the bottom rope in certain positions. It's kind of hard to say without seeing it visually, but camera angles are important because you don't want to fuck up an edit because you have it in a weird camera angle. And hard cams are important as well. So yeah, definitely that's something I wish I learned when I first started. And don't have too many crowd cuts. You don't want too many crowd cuts, because then it's just like it kind of breaks up the flow of the match. And not kind of, it breaks up the flow of the match. And it's kind of hard to do with that with 2K22. So there's some kind of, I guess people are more lenient about crowd cuts, because obviously the recovery speed in 2K22 and stuff like that, it's a lot more faster. You can bring down the recovery to 25 or 30, whatever the cap is, or it's the most you can lower it, and it'll slow down the recovery speed so they don't get up so fast. But still, 19 was way better when it came to animations and stuff like that.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
But yeah, not too many crowd cuts, I would definitely say. And a big one, and that's up to you, but like me personally, I like to script my matches. And I'm gonna break down how I script my matches, because I feel like it's the easiest thing in the world. It'll make life 100 times easier for you. So the way how I script my matches, I'll get on a Word document, a Google Docs, whatever, and I'll do it in numerical order. The reason for that is because each number technically is equivalent to a minute in the match. So, for example, like I'm a very like detail orientated person. Like I literally write everything that I'm gonna be doing in this match and who's doing what. So like, for example, say me and you are in a match and I wanted to start off in a certain way. Let's go with the classic stare down. The first bullet point, or the first number 1, would be like Matsuda Tanaka and Townsend have a stare off in the beginning of the match. They circle around the ring. Matsuda Tanaka taunts, and I'll literally type in what taunt he's gonna do. So while I'm writing the script, I'm sitting in the movesets. So like I'll scroll down like what moves I'm gonna be doing, what taunts, and I'll literally write down the name of the taunt. He's gonna be doing Dolph Ziggler 2, the taunt, whatever. And it'd be like Matsuda's pointing at himself. And then I'll be like, Townsend does Roman Reigns taunt, the one that he's like kind of like hulking up. Both men stare down at each other for a few more seconds and then lock up. And then the second point, Townsend puts in a headlock or Irish whips Matsuda. You kind of get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
going. So That's how I do it. Numerical order. Each number, it's a scenario in the match. It's either gonna lead up to a spot or just within that 30. It's about 30 seconds to a minute of match time each number, and it's a way to. It's for my sanity, so not because when I used to do sim matches, I used to do it on the fly, whereas like I'm literally doing it as I record or like I'm in the game. I wasn't writing down what I was doing. I was just coming up with like, oh, let me do this spot. So it's kind of like all over the place, but people still liked it. Looking back, I don't like them. But people enjoy them. I don't know about simmers, but there's some people that enjoyed my previous matches. But I look back and I was like, I definitely could have done this a lot better if I was doing what I'm doing now. Yeah, so definitely scripting matches. If you have the time for it, or if you just don't, people don't like writing. I enjoy writing. That's something that I've always been interested in. Even when I was a teenager, I used to do a lot of script writing. So it comes natural to me. I don't mind writing. But yeah, numerical order. Usually when I'm doing a long match, I'll try to get like 25, 30 points. That's about like 20 something minutes of match time. So yeah, if for those who are listening want to learn more about that, my DMs are open. I can teach you my strategy. Aaron Waite will tell you himself, when I was working on the Bear Claw match, I showed them my structure. It's like, this is how I do my shit. Sometimes like looking at it, it may look like what the fuck am I reading? But on paper, but once you see it, it's like, oh,
whole different
it helps. The main reason is to help the match flow a lot better.
Yeah, and I perfectly agree. I mean, scripting it out seems like the best things to do. I mean, that's what if I say I'm doing a segment which I know is nowhere near as complex as doing an entire match, but for example, let's say the COH segment I did, it was like this move, okay, and then cut, like it wasn't perfectly made, but I had the idea of what I was doing before I went in to do it, because if you sit in the match and you're like, well, what do I do? You're just gonna you're gonna do something and you think, okay, that's cool, and then you're gonna just make the match like 30 minutes long by accident, and it's not as good, it's not as well thought out. I've
actually done that by mistake one time, never again. But this is for last year's WrestleFest, and I was working. So this was like my quote unquote second, or like I want to say, second sim match. It wasn't entirely sim. Some of it was pure sim as well. But it was Joey Diaz versus JT Fury. 3 stages of hell. That match was almost an hour. Never again am I ever doing a match that long. And the reason why it was so long is because I really didn't have any idea what to do. So in my mind, I'm like, just make this match chaotic and have fun with it. But it dragged on for so long that the match could have been like 30 minutes. It ended up being I literally had to cut probably like 10 minutes of the match because it would have been over an hour. The backstage part was way too long because it was like if I'm not mistaken, it was a first blood, false count anywhere, and then Hell in a Cell. The Hell in a Cell portion of it was perfect. That was the best part of the match. The Hell in a Cell portion was quick. It was about probably like 10 minutes or less. But it was the most fun portion. The Hell in a Cell portion was completely HLR. And there was a lot of story elements to that part of the match. What could have saved that match was, if it had more structure from the first and the middle. But yeah, definitely you want to avoid making really long matches. Just because your match is 20, 30 minutes doesn't mean it's a classic. But yeah, avoid doing long matches unless it's necessary. It depends on the story, in my opinion, for long matches. Like if it, or you know, if it's like two huge simmers or whatever, or e-fetters, whoever's in the match, if they're like big names, and they're clashing for the first time, that I think that's reasonable. But other than that, it depends on the story.
Yeah. I mean, all of the tips and everything, like, you know, it helps make Ethan a lot better, and Sim a lot better, and, you know, the quality of the content a lot better. And it's nice to see that you're so open to let people, you know, DM you and ask you questions and whatnot.
Yeah. One more thing I forgot to mention: watch matches.
Real life ones or sim ones?
Watch matches. Sim ones, but if you watch sim ones, you know, watch simmers who've been doing this for a while. Like I've watched a couple simmers and see how they do certain things and stuff like that. See where I can get better. But I'm talking about, like, you know, IRL matches, and see how those matches are structured and understand the psychology with wrestling and storytelling, things like that. That's how I went into my match against Bowen at WrestleFest too. I was watching a lot of match New Japan, Noah, primarily watching a lot of Masawa versus Kobashi matches. You know, that's because I know that's something that me and Bowen really enjoy, and not necessarily mimic, but take some aspect of that match or those matches, or even Kenny and Okada, and try to like recreate that some aspect. Like the opening between me and Bowen at WrestleFest 2 was straight up Kenny versus Okada 3.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's definitely a big one. Just watch matches, and it'll definitely help you craft sim matches a lot better.
Oh yeah, for definite. Like it's a nice art, and to watch everyone like sink their teeth into it, because I feel you've inspired a lot of people to sink their teeth into it, because I didn't feel there was a lot of people that were doing it before, and then now there's a lot more people who are at least open to it or more into doing it. But I'm not too sure. Like G, I wouldn't have expected him to do a sim match, but yeah, he did one at WrestleCade. It's just nice to see that like gap being, you know, overcome, and more people are just working on it now to, you know, a lot of people who are interested in doing these things are now being able to, because then they're seeing it's able to be done. Taking a step back from somewhat the sim side and looking more of a showrunner, how has it been taking the reins and running Relentless Pro, in your opinion?
It's a mixed bag in terms of like majority of the time it's fun, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. You don't want it to feel like a job, because then you're not having fun. But it's getting better. It's better now, but it was a certain point of time where I was just not happy as a showrunner, because I felt like I was doing everything myself, and especially when before I was even the showrunner, when the previous owner was around, like even then he heavily relied on me to do a lot of this stuff, because I was the only one that really knew how to do all this stuff. So it was kind of like taking its toll on me, where it's like, okay, I like doing this stuff, but I want structure. I don't want to be told the match card the night before showtime, because that's just chaotic and messy, and I have a life too, you know. So I'm not trying to do graphics at like 3 a.m. because you didn't want to do your job and you know, as a show owner and book the show. So there was times where I was really frustrated with the previous show owner because he wouldn't, you know, do his job as an owner. But nowadays I feel like it's much more fun, and you know, the current team, I think they're doing the best they can with, you know, with their time as well, because we all got lives. We don't all have time for certain things, especially this. At the end of the day, this is a video game. This is a hobby. Life comes first. As a show owner, like I said, it could be tough, but as long as your team is backing you up, or if you don't have a team, you should get a team. I'm pretty sure there's people out there who do it solo. It's not easy. I've tried it. Not willingly, but I've tried it. It's definitely much more easier to know that you have somebody there that's gonna help you. And I want to big up G, because he's been God sent to our pro creative. He's literally like helped so much in terms of like creating, and not just booking shows, but segments and stuff like that. Because at a certain time, for a long time, I was the only one doing promos and segments for people. And that's not easy, especially when I have to work on my sim matches too.
Oh, 100%.
So
I can say from experience, and I have ran 3 different shows in core on Twitter core, and they have not surpassed like the 20th episode, because by the time I get to the 20th episode, I'm already burnt out. Having like it's a very big commitment to be running these shows, and to do it with the success that you've reached is a whole different ball game. But I know it's no easy feat. You know, it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy. And like, the whole reason why it's funny, the whole reason why I even took up streaming, and like, this was not something that was on the back of my head. Like, the whole reason why I took up streaming is because the previous owner was very inconsistent with streaming. And I cared that people cared about our pro, and I didn't want our pro to be another Fed that could have been like a what if, like, oh, what if our pro would have been this, or what if that Fed could have been that? Because it was gonna be that Fed where if the owner wasn't, you know, on top of his shit, the Fed was gonna go to shit. I was either probably gonna just make my own Fed or join creative for a different Fed. But I care for the people on the roster and people who are loyal to our pro, and I don't want to feel like we're letting them down. So I just took it upon myself to get an Elgato and learn how to stream. And
you're doing really well
for learning that, because I have fun streaming, and the community is very generous to me, I would say, and they're very embracive. And I feel like ever since I took ownership, it seems much more like a community within our pro, I guess you could say.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
the previous owner, he just was not he wasn't the best. He wasn't roster friendly.
Yeah, I've heard stories.
But I don't want to get into all of that. But people know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's talk about the community that you formed around Relentless Pro. I mean, there is such a strong and passionate fan base. You've got a lot of exclusive talent. who bring such a uniqueness to the roster. Like, and it's a breath of fresh air because I hear the same, it's the same criticism that people say is, oh, it's the same people on the same shows, and nothing ever changes. And that was a criticism heard throughout all of Core when before really this whole stepped in. And you got guys like Greeley, who I get along with very well. You got Frankie Burns, like a breath of fresh air completely into like what is possible. I mean, he seems one of the most coolest guys around, completely down to earth.
Frankie is definitely one of the top guys, not just in art, bro. I just feel like Frankie is like, ever since he joined art pro, he kind of like upped his game because he wanted to get better in terms of like sim and stuff like that. He wanted to develop his character, and I admire his passion to develop his character. It's been really cool to see how far he's come as a character, and even learning sim. His matches are he's picking it up pretty quick, and it's cool to see. I kind of felt bad for him because back when UIW was around, he had this big feud going on, and it hit a brick wall because shit happens. Fed owner lost all his data and kind of lost all motivation to continue, and it kind of went downhill for Frankie, and he wanted to figure something out, and now he figured it out, and he's doing great shit. Definitely someone to definitely look out for this year.
Oh, an absolute top guy. And
crazy shit.
I have talked to people outside of ARPRO, and there are eyes on Frankie Burns. I'll leave it at that. But there's such a unique flavor when it comes down to the Relentless Pro locker room.
His promos are fire.
Oh, 100%. And the stuff he's doing with JT Fury at the moment
is
is fantastic.
With JT, I remember that first promo that he did with JT on the Titantron. And I was like, holy shit, this is like really, like, genuinely, this is like good. Like, 100%. I felt like I was watching an episode of like Raw AEW or some shit, because like it was just that back and forth, and it was very creative. And JT as well has grown so much as a character. If you look at JT before, he didn't really have a ground. Like, he didn't really know what his character was yet, I guess you could say. And this is not a knock on JT, but he wasn't really given much to do. So he was just kind of like, in the background a couple times. Yeah. Like, he'll be here and there. He had like a feud with me, a one match feud with Unfiltered Violence. But like ever since then, he wasn't really doing much. But pairing him with Frankie has just been like amazing. Like, it's definitely like put his character on a whole new level, and you could tell JT's having fun with it.
Oh, 100%.
Because just watching the promos, they're great. Are going crazy.
It's definitely worth the entire watch. They're doing amazing at the moment, especially like they're doing astronomically well. Like they're doing. I can't say enough how much they've done it. How fantastic they have been. But it's a good community, because you go into that locker room chat, and it seems like everyone gets along with everyone, and everyone jokes with everyone, and it's just a fun, nice place to be around. And as you were saying before, doing core without a circle, without people, is not fun at all. And in our pro, everyone's super into each other, and like everyone's super like.
I think that's the thing about our pro's locker room. They always had this like stigma. There'll be people tweeting out like, our pro's locker room is crazy. Our pro locker room is toxic. Our pro locker room it's fun. It's So, like, I want to address the whole our pro locker room is toxic thing, because there was always this stigma that our pro locker room is toxic or was toxic, and at a certain point, it kind of was. I'll admit to it, because the show owner at the time just let a lot of shit slide. And it just like it was at a certain point, it's kind of like the Wild Wild West. People were just saying a bunch of shit, and shit was just happening on the timeline like almost every week, because the owner himself got himself into so much drama. Where, like, if you're all right, this is another important thing as a showrunner. If you, a showrunner, is doing stupid shit like causing drama on the timeline, and your roster members, especially like loyal ones or exclusives, see that, they're gonna think it's okay to be a dickhead too. They're gonna follow lead, like, oh, the owner's doing that, I can do this too, because the owner's doing it, so it must be okay. And that was the issue, where like me and the owner didn't really see eye to eye. I was like, yeah, they can have fun, and they still do to this day. It's much more tame than it was before, because the owner didn't really like put enough effort to have shit under control and have it was there was drama here and there with our pro.
Yeah,
as usually around pay-per-view time. Always, all the time, was either before or after. It was some kind of drama. And a lot of the time, it was because the owner said something, or did something, or somebody in the roster might have said something, or exclusive said something. I don't know. But most of the time, it was an owner. So as an owner, for my owners out there, make sure, like, you have some kind of structure and keep your roster in check. Like, you allow them to have fun. Yeah, of course, they should have fun. You want it to be a friendly space where people don't feel uncomfortable. That's another thing. You want to create that friendship with everyone and make sure everyone gets along with each other. And everyone's not going to get along with each other, but you want to make sure that it doesn't get to a point where your roster members hate each other, because then that's not a good look at all. If you have roster members that hate each other, it's
almost game over.
Might as well end the whole show.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the locker room is quite the time, and it's definitely based on the feds I'm in. And I'm not in many. I'm in few, like LGF, COH. I'm talking about eFeds, Axis, and then my sim feds. I'm in a few sim feds, but like out of all the feds I'm in, I feel like the locker room, our pro locker room, is like the most active.
Yeah, I'd say that.
A lot of people's, everyone mesh well with each other. Majority. I don't want to say everyone, but majority does. So yeah, there's that about the locker room chat.
I mean,
it's not toxic. It used to be, but that was that was a different time. That was before I took over.
Well,
and I wanted to make sure that our pro builds their reputation back up and have it a fed, make it a fed that people would speak fondly of and enjoy watching.
100%. I mean, as well, I find it kind of toxic when people bully Greeley, but I'll let that slide. Let that slide.
Greeley does it to himself. he does it to himself. You can't really do anything about that.
Oh, of course. Oh, I love Greeley. It's a fun, unique dynamic, and like when JT and Greeley were going back and forth with it today, I was cackling to myself. I was laughing at that entirety. It was just fun, wholesome stuff. You know what I mean? It's well, maybe not wholesome, but it's fun stuff.
And speaking of Greeley, that's another person who's stepping up. Because before, Greeley didn't have a character. I didn't know what Greeley's character was. before I took over, and I don't even want to take credit for Greeley having a character. I give that to Frankie. He's really helped mold Greeley's character, feuding with him and giving him something to do. Because before, like Greeley, before his hiatus, Greeley kind of was he was like in limbo. He was losing a lot of matches, and the show owner didn't really want to do anything with him. Like he had a stint with he Unsung with faction with Bill Dern, Crude and Brett Curtis, but that kind of like slowly faded away as some of them left R Pro, and that's because of the show owner at the time. And also he had a stint with Bowen, but that was just for story purposes. But after that, he was like kind of in limbo. He was like just losing a bunch of matches.
But he's managed to turn that around.
Didn't want to do it. And yeah, he turned it around. Frankie put the battery in his back, and now he beat you for the regional championship.
Yeah, but I beat him back, and that's what counts.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved Greeley. I still love Greeley. He's like, he makes me laugh quite a bit, and like we barely speak to each other outside that our pro locker room chat. Like we I'm not gonna pretend like we're the bees knees together behind the scenes and everything, but we get on a lot in the R Pro locker room chat, but we don't talk anywhere else really. But that's just to show the interactions with him I love and adore, and it's something I want to keep on doing. It's just fun, and it's wholesome fun. Really, is what is going on in R Pro at the moment.
And people who don't know Greeley and see him like how he talks and whatnot, they're gonna probably think he's a fucking dickhead, an asshole.
Oh, 100%.
At the end of the day, is no malice. He's just having fun and being a troll. So if you ever get offended by him, he's not being serious. So take everything he says with a grain of salt.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I've seen sometimes where like it could be seen as not being, where his interactions could go a bit harsh, but like
he's always been like that since the day I met him. He is never him being serious.
But you can say the same thing about Bowen. You know what I mean? And it's
Bowen too.
Bowen on Twitter is a whole different ball game.
But everybody kind of know Bowen plays around a lot, so no one really
100%.
takes the crazy shit he says serious.
I'm glad we don't.
Bowen's a funny guy.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, we'll
definitely,
like we were
genuinely
saying,
one of my best friends in the community. So
yeah,
I appreciate him.
Do you appreciate him calling you out about that spot, about the sim match and the Bowen podcast?
Which spot?
The electric chair German suplex. He was talking about that in the Bowen podcast.
It's funny. Like, I didn't remember him doing that until he brought it up, and I was like, "Oh, he did do that." But like, the way how I look at it is like everybody does, some spots, same spots, but you could kind of see it as storytelling.
Oh yeah,
because Nick Young, myself, Bowen, we're all intertwined. Like we all have been in some shape or form feuding with one another. So we take bits and pieces from each other and do certain things. Like Nick, especially. Nick caught some flack for whatever reason when they first took on APH at Ground Zero and they used Bowen's theme at the beginning. They were like, "Oh, Nick is ripping off Bowen." It's like, no, Nick is not ripping off Bowen. If you're paying attention, Nick is just, a storytelling, a callback to their feud with Bowen. And then Nick used my theme in our match at Unfiltered Violence in the beginning. It's just, as Nick's character, he likes to play mind games. But, some people like to pick and choose and think that they're calling something out. Sometimes it isn't what they think it is.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. Now, as we're quickly approaching the 1 hour and a half mark, and I am quickly saying it's 4 o'clock in the morning for me. We're gonna try and not wrap this up quickly, but steer it towards the end because we'd love.
End?
Well, I would love to do. We could
Conclusion.
definitely do. We can definitely do a part 2. I'm more than interested in doing a part 2, but just for my own
Yeah, I could
sanity.
talk all day.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm all for it, and like literally, if it was 8 hours earlier, this would be an 8 hour long podcast. I'd argue that, but again, it's 4 in the morning, and I'm just a bit aware that I've got some errands to run tomorrow. But so I don't mean to tell you to finish up or anything, but we'll just
cool, bro.
steer it just now quickly towards the end, and got some questions to ask you. So, in terms of the R-Pro locker room right now, who do you think? And you can give me multiple names, not just the one. Who do you think is going to be like the big heavy hitter within the next year?
Within the next year, obviously there's Frankie. Frankie is definitely one. On the women's side, I think Carmen Sanchez. Carmen, unfortunately, she had to relinquish the Ruby's championship, and that was due to OOC stuff. She didn't have the game at the time, and she didn't want to. She didn't want to feel like she was holding up the championship, which I understand. And that's reasonable. But Carmen, I think, would definitely be a someone who'll be blowing up in our pro. Frankie, JT as well, getting his name up there. You obviously you're a world champion.
Yeah.
Your first world championship.
We'll see how the reign goes. I mean, there's a lot of eyes on the reign. I want to try and be the best world champ I can be, because otherwise people are gonna be like, "Oh, we waited this long for Townsend to be a world champion. Good, thank God we waited."
Definitely got a lot of eyes, and people were happy that you won. So
yeah, I was honestly a bit shocked with the
big year.
I was a bit shocked of it, to be fair. Like that was quite a shocking thing to me. I didn't realize I'd get that much love.
It was shocking as well. It was a stacked chamber too.
100%.
That was like everybody in there was champions except for you.
Yeah, no, like I was honestly amazed that I got in, and what happened. It's definitely a massive moment for me.
Going back to the list, and now I'm just speaking art pro. I'm not speaking like what they've done outside of art pro. Adam Richards, he's still, he has his foot in the door, but he's still looking for that big moment, and I think it'll be coming soon. He's definitely getting up there. Christian Blake, he's had it rough in our pro. I'll be honest, he's had it pretty rough in our pro. Lots of losses when it comes to the important matches. And it when you lose a lot, sometimes it could take its toll on you. Especially when you lose important matches. But I think the good will come to him, if not this year, next year. But he's definitely getting his name up there in our pro. Amber Reed has had an incredible year. I think she'll continue to have an incredible year. Someone who has not really like broke the door down, but they will soon, I think. Valkyrie. Yeah. Valkyrie had an incredible, and I think a very underrated rivalry with Amelia Sky. That personally, I had hands-on with that, because I usually like to give creative freedom to the talents here in R-Pro. That's another thing why I think people enjoy being a part of R-Pro, is they have that creative freedom. But I've realized to this day, giving creative freedom is not always the best thing, because some people don't necessarily know what to do, or they're so used to being told what to do, it's like they feel afraid to speak up or something like that. So I've been trying to step it up more and giving ideas to people and stuff like that. But I had hands-on with Amelia and Valkyrie. That was fun to work with them, and it was a complete curveball with that feud, because when after the draft happened, I made it my mission to make Defiance. I'll admit it. I made it my mission And this was when it was, different. I was running Defiance and the previous owner was running Dominance. So, this was competitive. I was being competitive. And I told him, I was like, I'm going to make Defiance better than Dominance. And he wanted that competitiveness. So I gave it to him. And I wanted to throw a curveball to the viewers. And I was like, I DM Valkyrie and Amelia Sky. I was like, y'all going to open the premiere show for Defiance. And it's going to be a fucking sim match.
Fair, yeah.
Like, people are not going to expect that. You see Valkyrie versus Amelia, they probably gonna think it's an E-Fed because they're primarily E-Fedders. They're not going to expect them to have a sim match, especially the opener. And then we just took it from there and built a story. And that personally, one of my favorite stories that I've worked on with. But yeah, Valkyrie, Amelia, definitely people that we could look out for. More on the men's side of things. Dalton Thunder. Dalton, he's projecting himself out there. We just saw him on COH Rise. It's cool to see him there. But I think he's definitely he's raising his profile, especially after beating Chris Aaron. And that's another person who's probably going to blow up in our pro. Chris Aaron.
I was just about to mention him as well.
That man did not lose a singles match. Well, he lost by Kana against Chris Midas before WrestleFest, but he was not pinned ever since he went into the singles division.
I want to just say a special thing with Chris Aaron. I'd say the past year, he has turned it around from being viewed as like, a guy who's been here a bit too long and, guy's not really going to be doing too much, to one of like the most entertaining things in all of core. His stuff in Overdrive at the moment, like with Enigma Soul and whatnot, was fantastic.
Yeah.
I loved his commitment to the whole Death Machine idea, which and the tag team that worked for like, how long did it work for? Like
a few months.
A few months, but we lost like every single match. We lost every single match. And as soon as we break up, we both go out and start winning everything. So
everything happens for a reason.
I'm hoping there's some story we can work on that. I mean,
I would hope, eventually it'll come full circle.
There's
the stars align.
With the storyline going at the moment, with me doing the open challenge now for Live in the East, I was thinking about like teasing certain people, and Chris Aaron was the top of the list of people I should be teasing to answer it. But I don't know yet who's actually going to answer it. There's one guy I'm aware of, and I've brought the idea to. I won't spoil on the podcast, but that's a whole different thing. But like, if we've got 3 weeks of building, I kind of want to tease it a little bit. There's some big matchups that we could have, and that I could tease. But let's talk about Live in the East for a second. A stacked match card. We've got 3 weeks left of build, and then it's on. Am I right? Was saying 3 weeks?
Yeah, like 3-4 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. Yeah,
4 weeks now, and then it's a stacked show. I mean,
not all matches have been announced, but I guess I can announce this here for those who would be listening.
Sure thing.
There will be 2 special shows after Live in the East. So Live in the East is the big one, right? It's the pay-per-view. But following Live in the East, we'll be having Defiance and Dominance in Japan. So so Live in the East is more like a little Japan tour. Initially this was supposed to happen last year, and it didn't happen. This was my idea. I thought it would have been cool to have before it was just Dominance. It would have been cool to have a after, like a kind of like a WrestleMania, Raw WrestleMania show.
Yeah.
But like Live in the East show in the Dominance show in Japan. It didn't happen for whatever reason. But now I think this would be a perfect opportunity to have a dominance and defiance in Japan. I'm currently working on like the graphics and stuff like that. I'm literally like making the arena as we speak for the Defiance Japan.
What what's the thing called in New Japan? The one that's straight after Wrestle Kingdom? New Year's Dash?
I believe so.
Yeah, just like that then. Oh, brilliant. I love it.
So I wanted to make it feel like a mini, like a super show. I want to make it feel like a super show. So like give opportunities to guys who wanted to be on Live in the East and get that Japan feel. They can still get it after Live in the East and be on the Japan or Dominance show. And they're gonna have special arenas, so it won't just be like, oh, we're in Japan, but it's the regular Dominance arena. No, like I want people to feel like, okay, this is still a Japan show, and this is a special Dominance or Defiance arena. You know, make it feel special so they don't feel left out for those who may miss Live in the East.
Yeah.
So that would happen directly after Live in the East. So Live in the East is July 30th, Saturday. So Dominance would be on, I believe, August 1st, and then Defiance would be August 2nd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a stacked card, and I'm more than looking forward to it. Like, it's going to be amazing. Like,
I'm very excited for it.
And then Paradise Bash is then literally the next round.
I've seen a few people's attires for Live in the East. I was like, oh, yeah, this is cool.
Oh,
but yeah, Paradise Bash. Very exciting one. Paradise Bash was a passion project of mine from last year that fell flat. So disappointed. Because this was an event. This was supposed to be our SummerSlam, and the whole premise of it was, well, the tagline last year was "You're all invited," and what that meant was, so we were doing commercials, which will be coming back as well. Still 80s themed. This one because I kind of want to retcon it.
Yeah.
Redo last year's debacle. It wasn't all bad. Last year wasn't all bad, but clearly the main event fell flat. People expected a sim match. I just didn't have the time to create a sim match because I was so heavily focused on other portions of the match. I wanted to give other people on the roster their shine, like Ryan Romero and Adam Richards, Ashley Rain and Ali Page. I wanted to give their time to shine and elevate their matches on the card. So I didn't get to really focus on the main event, unfortunately. But Just Price and Corey had a fire match that should have been the main event. It was a women's death match for the women's championship. That should have been the main event. And my match should have been co-main, but shit happens. So we're retconning it. And this time around, still 80s theme. So hey, Townsend, if you want to do an 80s theme commercial, even do it with Chris Aaron. Hey, let's talk business.
For sure.
But yeah, I'm like I said, it was a passion project of mine because I'm a big fan of 80s music and just how certain things looked graphically. So I want to bring that to our pro for that show. So there's going to be like cool little advertisements. I'm probably going to be doing like magazine covers. I'll be posting on the timeline under the R Pro account, like 80s style like advertisements.
There's gonna be a lot of Stranger Things stuff, surely.
So it's gonna maybe. I mean, if people want to do that, there is the idea of doing a 80s action trailer for the show. That would be hilarious. I hope it happens. My original idea last year, when I say like the tagline was "You're all invited," there was supposed to be cameos from different feds and primarily COH because at the time there was, I want to say, imaginary animosity between R-Pro and COH. Mainly it was just the owner, and COH didn't get along with the owner, and the owner doesn't get along with COH. Mainly it was the R-Pro owner didn't get along with COH. He was just bitter and just didn't like them and felt like COH was out to get us for whatever weird reason, which was not the case. But
I think maybe competition might have been a big part of that. Like,
I didn't really see any like kind of competition. He wanted to create competition. I think that's necessary. That wasn't necessary because we're all small time streamers. Why would we want to hurt our numbers? That makes no sense. Like, he purposely wanted to run over COH. But that's another conversation for another time. But I don't want to, go offside track and stuff like that. But so I was supposed to have a commercial for Paradise Bash, and it was supposed to be Matsuda Tanaka's hairspray, I think. Oh no, it was supposed to be. Was it hairspray? It was either that or like a food product. It was supposed to be funny. And at the end of it, well, Ryan Swift was supposed to narrate the whole thing, and at the end of it, he would actually show up in the commercial. So like people, oh shit, Ryan Swift is on an R Pro show. That would have been cool as fuck. It just didn't happen. I didn't have, because like I said, I was working on sim matches, and it was just, I was flooded. But maybe it'll happen this time around. I still have the recording, voice recording. Nothing was actually recorded visually, but I still have Ryan's lines for it. So maybe I'll do it.
Maybe one of these days.
Put it to work. But yeah, Paradise Bash, very exciting. Very excited for it. It's most likely going to be at the end of August.
I don't know. Got some time.
There's some time there. Probably see a lot of new faces on the card as well. People to look out for is like Maria on Dominance. She hasn't been on the show too much, but she's definitely a name to look out for on our pro.
Yeah,
Corey, getting her name up there.
100%. We've talked about your view from our pro as like a showrunner perspective. Now, from the Tanaka perspective, who are the people that you're thinking that you're going to try and do? You want to do something with as Tanaka? There's anyone that you want to like do a storyline with, do a match with, and like anything like that?
In our pro.
Well, within anywhere.
Anytime soon. I mean, I don't want to give anything away, so I'm not going to say what I was about to say. But people I do want to work with eventually, obviously, Adam Richards is definitely at the top of my list. Frankie Burns, Chris Aaron, those are like my top 3 people I want to work with that I haven't worked with. I know Chris Aaron's been dying to work with me.
Absolutely.
And it was supposed to happen. But things happen. I know you spoke about it a little bit about the event that we were planning, or you were planning with.
Oh, was that Power Mania?
The Power Mania, yeah.
Like I was saying, when it comes to running a show, you do however many hours of work into it, and then it just,
I know how it feels, bro.
You get burnt out.
I have Matsuda versus the world. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I got burnt.
It's gonna happen. Yeah. I put way too much work into the graphics for that not to happen. It's gonna happen. If you're listening, people who are on that show, it's gonna happen. There's been matches already. There's matches already recorded for the match. For the show. There's matches already recorded for it.
For Power,
the entire show is just not done yet.
In terms of Power Mania, all my work I deleted because I got into a mindset. Of I'm never gonna do core again, and this was like, I'd argue March, maybe April, where I got into the mindset I was never gonna do core again. So the files were sitting on my computer. And before I opened the podcast with you, I said there's only 5 gigabytes left for space, which is not a lot for a computer. And I just took the executive decision to delete a lot of core stuff to make space. I deleted a lot of core stuff on the YouTube channel, and because I got genuinely burnt out with the entire thing. But there was a Caleb James match that I really want to redo somewhere down the line because there was a lot of good shit on it. But like I said, I got into a mindset where I was never going to come back. But here I am now. here I am now. I said it with
It happens.
Oh, 100%. It happens with everyone, I think. Everyone goes through it. But I got into the mindset that I was never going to come back. And, here I am now. But, alas, you were saying, so Chris Aaron versus Tanaka could have happened, probably should have happened, but it didn't happen. But I'll argue this. Your match with Chris Aaron, whilst it could have been amazing on Power Mania, I want a story for it. There needs to be there needs to be a story. I think when it comes to these rivalry matches.
During at that time, I wasn't really the best at Sim, in my opinion. So it's like, it probably wouldn't have been as good as it could be now.
Well, you can build a story with it. I mean, I think maybe on Overdrive, that might be where it will happen. Who knows? Because correct me if I'm wrong, you're on Dominance at the moment, right? Like Matsuda is on Dominance. So if you want to face Richards and Aaron, you're going to move your ass over to Defiance. And I don't know whether or not
unless they come to Dominance, but
I mean,
or if I go to Defiance.
It'd be interesting for Chris Aaron to come over to Dominance, because I'd be wanting to defend my my little hill, and I'm sure he wants to reach the top of said hill. There's a lot of story. I mean, and this is the thing, story-driven feds now are just brilliant, in my opinion. Like,
it's happening more frequent. Feds stepping up, doing story-driven stuff, which is cool to see. Instead of just EFED, pure EFED stuff, because it gets redundant and tiring.
100%. So you got those three guys: Adam Richards, you got Chris Aaron, you got Frankie Burns. Is there anyone else that you're looking forward to facing? Maybe perhaps an intergender match.
Amber Reed, of course. Definitely, when it comes to intergender, she's my number one. Someone I would want to work with. I've already worked with Tora. I did a small stint with Tora. She was my only intergender opponent.
I mean, I'm doing a lot of things with intergender Tora at the moment. Like Tora on a COH is what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm trying to get that running.
But yeah, Amber definitely intergender. Definitely have to be a story in my opinion too. Other intergenders I could think of. Can't think of anything else at the moment.
I'm not going to limit you to the intergenders, like anyone else apart from the three you've already named, or four you've already named.
Taj. I would love to work with Taj. Me and you had something, but it was very short. It was just like a one and done match.
It's Vaxxis, yeah. Really a I showed up. I thought I did a pretty nice set of packages to hype myself up. Had the match with you, lost, and I think I had nothing until I feuded with APH. I had one match with APH, and I think I've done nothing since. And let me tell you, I've not denied any work. Like I was waiting for, like, okay, you'll come back and do this match now, and it's like I'm still waiting for that call. I've never got it. I lost to you and APH, and I never got called back. But I mean,
you came over for the quick check.
Oh yeah, let's just call it that. I took the check and I ran home with it.
But yeah, I definitely would want to redo something with you.
We'll see.
Trying to think of other people I would like to work with. I mean, obviously a lot of people I would like to work with, but like people are like dying to work with.
Is there anyone outside of our pro that you?
Our pro, there's a lot of people outside of our pro that I can name. I would want to do something with. Like a big one would be like Jordan Richard. Is a simmer on the PlayStation side of things. There's HOH. Snoovens, another one. Aaron Waite. I worked with Bear Claw, but I would love to. Hey, I'm shooting my shot. ARW. My door's open. I love ARW shit. Maury does incredible work. So those are definitely people I would love to work with. If you're unfamiliar with ARW, you should check them out, Townsend.
I need to. I like I said with the Boeing podcast, my core vision cone, as it were, is very short and very small. So I do need to expand it. It's on the list of things to do, but getting into core and everything like this is it's difficult. Yeah. So,
but more people like Lennon Walsh, this is like Simmers, Matt Short, of course. Would love to do something with Matt Short. It would have to be a death match. Cedric Young too. Would love to do something with Seti. Caleb James. That's in our pro, but I didn't mention Caleb. Definitely would like to do something with Caleb. I beat Greeley's ass too many times. And he still talks shit.
I love Greeley.
I beat him 4 times. He's still talking. But I respect the shit talking. He doesn't back down. But yeah, I could go on a list. Everett Constanelli, someone that me and him been wanting to work with each other for a while. We just haven't pinpoint a certain time. It's just the time has to be right. And obviously G's been dying to work with me too. But yeah, I can go on and on about how many people I would want to work with.
Yeah.
But Justin Tyler too. I worked with Ryan Romero, who's also Justin Tyler, but I understand Justin Tyler's on hiatus. So if he ever does come back, that's someone I would want to work with. Oh, this is a no-brainer. Fucking Swift.
Now that is a match, and that is something I am looking forward to whenever it does happen.
He's been talking a lot of shit. Listen, man, I'm about to cut a promo right now.
Oh,
but I don't know. I'm not gonna cut a promo. But
I'd have to like
definitely Swift. I'm coming for Ryan Swift.
There are a lot of
dream matches. Me and Tone is gonna happen. It's gonna happen at my sim event. So that's something that
yeah,
I would like to do me versus Tone on a show for a build. But
I mean, there's an open challenge
happening for my event.
He's opened an open challenge for Swing Vote. If you want to open that door,
maybe. But he's on Rise. I'm on Overdrive.
He said the door's open to anyone. He must have caught it from me because I
have to talk to my translator.
Well, speaking of said translator, he dropped a very good fucking promo tonight.
Yeah,
I was
that was fun.
I liked it a lot. It was great.
It was on the spot, and I was like, "Yo, let's do a translator." Tanaka's never speaking English again.
Fair enough.
For the time being.
Well, it worked well. Did you give a name to your translator, or did you call him Anthony Reyes?
I was joking, but I might stick with it. So, but like, I'm a big Sopranos fan, and Christopher Moltisanti is like a favorite of mine on the show. So I was like, I told Tone, I was like, I'll just call him Chris Moltisanti. Gave him a New York accent. I'm from New York, so it came naturally. But
sounds good. I didn't
right now, his name is Chris Moltisanti. If I stick with it, maybe. But
maybe we'll see. Well, Tanaka, last question. Is there something in core left for you to do? You've done sim matches, you've done EFED matches, you've done running a big, massive EFED show. You're currently doing and producing a sim event. Is there something that you feel that has never been done before that you can achieve?
Never. I was about to say something, but you said never been done.
Well, say what you say that.
Well, initially, what I was gonna say is RPro versus COH.
Ooh.
Call them sending shots right now.
I mean, they hinted at doing a Forbidden Door. They've hinted at doing a Forbidden Door.
That could be like a little Forbidden Door thing.
Yeah. I mean, which side do I choose?
I don't. Has Has there ever been like, because I there was a short time where I was gone from call, so like I don't know if there's ever been like that caliber of two feds, that big.
I don't think so. At least if it's been done before, I don't think it's been. I think the only thing that begs to mind is Redacted Fed, the British Redacted Fed, the one that was run by Squeaky British Man, and COH did a joint tournament for the cruiserweight, like for a cruiserweight, the Twitch cruiserweight thing. But apart from that, I can't think of like a COH versus or like a big Fed versus.
There is an idea I have, but I will not share on here. We can talk after about it. But
sure thing. Well,
it's a cool idea.
I know for a fact you're going to be doing more groundbreaking stuff. It's only a matter of time because you've done so much brilliant shit since being back. You've definitely become like one of the biggest centerpieces of core, whether you people want to admit it or not. Like, there's a lot of people who are aware about you. Like, there's a lot of simmers who are aware about you. There's a lot of e-fetters who are aware about you. So from being a massive superstar, we've been able to talk through the character and talk through the beginnings. And we've got a lot to talk about for part 2. We can talk about an awful lot.
We can talk about 4 count part 2.
Well, definitely. We
didn't really address 4 count.
Well, I'll be definitely.
There's a lot to talk about.
There is a lot. I mean, I'm thankful you've come to us. Here, I say us. There's no one else. It's just me. Welcome. You come to me to Warchief Radio, Chapter 2. I don't know whether or not they keep the Chapter 2 thing about. I thought it was kind of cute on the little logo, but thank you ever so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And no, it's been my entire pleasure. I've just been listening, enamored. I mean, I've learned a lot. I've got there's a little sim stuff now that I've learned just from you, just talking. So thank you ever so much for coming on the show. I think I'm going to try and get these shows where I can announce the next person, but I have no idea. But no, we'll get around to people. There's people who've been wanting to get on the show for a while, so I will get around to you. I'm sorry. But thank you ever so much again, Tanaka, for joining us. If you've got one last final thing to say that and then say who you're shouting out. Because I've written down some of the shoutouts you said this.
One last thing to say. Tune into our pro every Mondays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on my channel, KYR_Scorsese. You probably can't spell that, so it's going to be a tough one.
I'll put that in the description.
Yeah. Tune in our pro Mondays and Tuesdays for Dominance and Defiance, same time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can catch some of the best eFed / sim stuff. We're hybrid. We're not just eFeds. We're not just an eFedder. We're hybrid. So definitely want to tune into that. And shout out 4 Count Partnership. For those who don't know what the 4 Count is consisting of Relentless Pro, COH, Ammo Wrestling, Fireball, Puro, and also the people who sponsor the partnership, Pro Wrestling Syndicate. Definitely a bunch of feds and networks you definitely would want to tune into. And for those who tuned in, I appreciate y'all for listening to me ramble. And I hope y'all learned something from me. That was the whole purpose, for you guys to learn from me, learn who I am, get a little scoop of who the mind and man behind Matsuda Tanaka is. A lot of people don't really know me. They kind of feel like I came out of nowhere. Like Rey Mysterio out the fucking stage. But no, I've actually been around the community for quite some time. I've just been very low key until I decided to stay. But yeah, that's my piece. And I hope everyone has a great night. Or if you're on the other side of the world, good morning.
Well, it's going to be a good morning for me. Thank you ever so much for coming in. And thank you everyone currently watching or either watching the premiere or watching way after the premiere is done. But thank you all again. It's been Matsuda Tanaka and it's been Townsend. And thank you again all. Good night.